Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I have the entertaining story for you. I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. He is 25 years old, and he's going to share his story about events that happened about 3 years ago or so, give or take, when he was 22, 23 years old, with his former fiancée. The former fiancée, who he walked in and saw her getting plowed by her ex-husband, and how ultimately he got the ultimate revenge on her by hooking up with her mom. And not just once, but many, many times over. And now he's wondering, did he go too far? Messing with the relationship between her and her daughter, etc., etc. Now I know what you're thinking. SSM, this is BS. There's no way this could possibly happen. Well, let me tell you guys, we are in Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, and truly you can't make this stuff up. And I've been doing this for a while, and believe me, I have seen and heard it all. So you just never know. Now, many of you guys may be wondering, why aren't you just doing this on your other channel, They Did What? Because this is kind of under the crazy category. Well, this guy specifically asked me to do it on this channel because he has questions at the end of his tale here, and he was looking for some help from the guys in the community. So, okay, I will certainly oblige. But there's a lot of lessons in this story, aside from the fact of what can happen if you're hooking up with your ex's mom. A lot about rushing into relationships, not paying attention to red flags, doing things you don't want to do, checking your girl, etc., etc. And also really getting to know her and her background before you get into a serious relationship. There's a lot of things that happen in this story that this guy didn't do. And so it's very important you guys understand this going forward for you relationship and dating guys. So, that being said, I will get into this definitely very entertaining story. So he starts off, he says, hey SSM, I've been a fan of your channel for the past couple of years, and I appreciate the advice that you've given me inadvertently. I was debating sharing my story because it has been several years now, and my life currently is in a very different place than I imagined it to be. But I figured if nothing else, maybe that my story can at least entertain some of your subscribers. Yeah, dude, given how this thing goes and the whole you with your ex's mom thing, that will definitely interest many people. Anyway, I'm now 25 going on 26 years old, but when all this happened, I was 22. The girl I was engaged to at this one point is a little younger than me. Dude, you were engaged at 22 or around that period? Smack! What the hell was the rush? And she is younger than you? How old was she? The girl I was engaged to at one point is a little younger than me. We'll call her Karen because I find that funny. Well, that's warranted. For context, we met each other in high school, I know, and had several flings after she dumped her ex, who eventually became her first husband. We weren't in contact with one another for several years. At the time, I was just starting out as an electrician here in Texas, and are going to both college and trade school, as well as working 50+ hours a week. Dude, when the hell do you have time to sleep? I'm glad you're on your grind, but holy crap. Needless to say, I was busy. I was also living with my dad at the time, but that is an entirely different can of worms I'm not going to get into. Karen and I met again after years at a racetrack while I was on my way home from work. To my eye, she was still as beautiful as when we were in high school. We had a long chat at the greasy gas station, but elected to go on a date to properly catch up. The date went swimmingly. Obviously, the attraction she had for me back in high school didn't fade over time, which had me excited. Fast forward a few months, and we were officially in a serious relationship. A few months? What's the rush? I know you know now, but you need to take your time. Let them get you. Let them chase after you. A guy that rushes into a relationship too quickly, they're going to think, well, this guy's easy. No chase, no challenge. Nice guys jump into relationships. Nice guys nice guys are quick about it. The bad boys, or the guys that have value, have their options with women, take their time. And that's why the women chase after them and give them whatever they want. One thing to know about Karen is that outwardly she likes to portray herself as a take-charge person. But privately she's very submissive. Even our private interactions she had nothing to do with and has nothing to do with sex. She was always deferring to me in most things, which I liked. A giant red flag that I willingly ignored, however, was the fact that she was not only divorced, but a single MOM. Again, how old is she? She's younger than you at the time, so like maybe 21, and she's divorced and a single MOM? Bro, I don't care how good looking she is. Run for the hills. You don't need this. This is problems. Divorced by that age and a single MOM? But this guy obviously didn't know any better, and this led him to my channel, amongst others. So, he's passing his wisdom on to you guys. I never bothered to learn the ins and outs of her and her ex-husband's falling out, and looking back, I can't help but think I should have. You bet your ass you should have found out what was going on, and not like you would get the real story from her. I mean, let's be honest here. You don't need that. I want you guys to have a drama-free life, not invite drama in, and I don't care how good-looking the girl is, I don't care how amazing her body is, and whatever freaky, outrageous shit she'll do to you in the sack, it's not worth it. Take it from a guy in his mid-40s who's lived and learned. For 2 years, the relationship was amazing. I'd bust my ass in both my schools and at work, deal with my dad's unhealthy habits, and then get to relax with my girl at her and her mother's apartment. Karen's mother, who we'll call Sharon, was an absolute sweetheart. Even today, I can't help but look back on my interactions with that woman with a smile. Well, we all know why, dude. Anyway, that was the routine. I was happy. That changed, however, when her ex-husband came back into the picture. He wanted to have time with his daughter, and while I was defensive around him, I knew what it was like to live without a parent, and who was I to keep a man from his kid, so I stayed out of it. For several months, things were fine. Although he was an ass, he would infuriate Karen. Nothing overtly wrong was happening. It wasn't until around 6 months before COVID that Karen and Sharon pressured me into proposing to Karen. It was reluctant on my part due to my own parents' divorce and my interactions with my crazy bee of a mother, but I thought that I wanted the white picket fence dream of a wife and a couple kids to look after, so I bit the bullet and got on one knee. Smack. No man should be pressured into doing that, or anything for that matter, if they don't want to. And no woman's going to respect the guy who literally pressured a guy to propose to her and he caved. And you're going to see in a moment, guys, the disrespect starts almost immediately after he caves. Women do not respect guys that are pushovers and weak and don't have a backbone. They respect men that lead, take charge, and they can't have their way with. And I'm not saying he's a jerk with her. He just doesn't tolerate disrespect and can't be told what to do. I noticed quickly after that Karen and I were engaged, that she started becoming more argumentative with me, which forced me to lay down the law on several occasions. What'd I just say? He caved, they pressured him to propose to her, and he said almost immediately, rather quickly, she started becoming argumentative and difficult. Why? Because she's like, I got this guy. That was easy. He caved. I don't have to respect him as much. They don't respect you, they won't love you, guys. Another example. One particular incident happened while we were driving around Richardson looking for an apartment of our own. Something didn't go the way Karen wanted to, and she started nagging and criticizing me for a number of things, most of which were aimed at my relationship with my father. About a good half an hour of dealing with her BS, I had enough and pulled my truck over on the highway and told her she had 5 more words to speak before I kicked her out of my truck. Good for you. I had a situation like that once. I'll never forget it in Boston. And I pretty much said one more word and you're walking home. Let's just say there was not one single word until we parked in the garage under the Boston Common. And then all of a sudden she was all sweet and loving. Isn't that amazing how that works? I remember that very well. Anyway, I'm still proud to say that I won that exchange and she shut the hell up and proceeded to make it up to me that night. So did my girl at the time. But even still, I was noticing something wasn't right. My gut was telling me something was off, and that Karen wasn't normally this argumentative. Now, you obviously caved. She's having her way with you, but there's also other things going on. Fast forward 7 months, when the pandemic was just starting, that my dog Buster was diagnosed with cancer. Due to my own set of childhood circumstances, I was very attached to Buster, so the news that he was sick hit me like a truck. For the next several months, I was focused on taking care of my dog, and at one point, I pathetically cried at work because I was so terrified of losing Buster. Dude, nobody here is going to judge you for being terrified and upset about your dog, okay? A man's dog or a man's pet, in my case, a man's cat or cats, they're our kids. They're our best friend, our companions. And believe me, I get it, brother, and dudes all over the world get it about your dog. No shame. That day in the long drive home, I got a call from Karen. She wanted me to take her out on a date that night, claiming that I was ignoring her. I told her that I couldn't because I had to look after Buster. When I said that, I remember choking up a little, which I tried and failed to stifle. I know she heard my tiny slip because she replied that it was just a dog with a noticeable tone of disgust, which infuriated me. Just a dog? Oh, hell no. Didn't they say that to John Wick? How'd that turn out for them? Just a dog, my ass. That dog is more important than her and anybody else. Just a dog. I would have broken up with her right then and there. I'd be like, engagement's off. Without thinking, I yelled at her over the phone and that I wasn't in the mood for her shit and that right now she came second. I then hung up the phone and didn't think of her. Now, even though she is definitely beginning to act like an a-hole the second, I rephrase that. I was going to say she's acting like an a-hole since you proposed. Well, she was acting like an a-hole before you proposed, let's be honest here. Pressuring you and all that. But she obviously, you weren't spending time with her. And you're wondering if you're being cold. Now, if you are in a relationship, guys, you got to find room for your girl and take her out at least once a week, okay? Now, this guy was having a crisis because his dog was dying and all that, but still, something could have been done. I will say that, because otherwise you don't, they're going to look elsewhere, okay? Now, a good girl would understand that, and she would, come over to the house. So the best thing would have been, if she really cared, you could have been at your place with the dog, and she could have come over and brought takeout or something, watched the movie. That way you didn't have to leave the dog's side. Okay, that would have been fair. But her talking that way about your dog, not cool. That is a sign that it won't work anyway. Now, here's where we get to the nasty stuff. He says, on January 18, 2020, was when Buster had to be put down. I held him when he died. I'm both proud of myself for that. I am both proud of myself for that and heartbroken that he had to die at only 9 years old. But such is life. For a week after that, I was off. I didn't contact Karen or any of my friends while I dealt with both my feelings as well as my father's, who was more unstable than I was. After 7 days, I decided that I had been rather cold towards Karen and decided to pop in and surprise her at her mother's place. These stories are always where the guy surprises his girl and he ends up with a big surprise. I bought a big bottle of tequila and chocolate-covered pretzels for Karen as an apology, and I made my way to the apartment. When I opened the front door, I was immediately assaulted with sounds of rigorous sex coming from Sharon's room. I tried to tell myself that it was Sharon bringing home some dude because she was single, but I knew that voice well. The little lie I tried telling myself quickly died at a pathetic death when my gut told me to confirm what I was suspecting. So I marched towards Sharon's room and found the door wide open with Karen's ex-husband running it into Karen, my fiancée, from behind. They were both facing the far wall with their backs turned toward me. The second I saw that my eyesight went red with rage. I had a bad case of letterbox vision when I grabbed the jackass by the back of his hair and pulled him off my now ex-fiancé and decided to beat the living hell out of him with the tequila bottle. Oh boy, dude. You have every reason to be pissed. And that guy deserved an ass kicking. However, with that bottle, you're lucky you didn't off this guy. Your ass would be in prison for life. I didn't ever stop when the said bottle shattered on the guy's face, and I resorted to using my fist. I remember numbly noticing the mangled and bloody mess, and I was turning his face in two. I didn't even notice that the glass fragments had gotten lodged in my hand from punching him. Karen tried to pull me off him, but I dwarfed her in size so she couldn't move me. The jackass that I was fully intent on offing didn't even put up a fight. Later on, I learned from Sharon that he had gotten plastic surgery to fix up his face, but never really cared. I came out of my rage while I was kneeling on the chest of the naked shit stain. He was completely unconscious, so I turned towards Karen. I'll never forget how terrified she looked while she stared wide-eyed at me. She was crying and shaking from fear and horror at the whole situation, and I suspect she thought that I would attack next. I didn't. I numbly told her that we were through and promptly got the F out of there. The silver lining in all this is that the shit stain never pressed charges on me, so no cops were involved. Bro, you lucked out, okay? Again, I don't blame you for being pissed and giving that guy an ass kicking, but what you did there out of pure rage, is your life in prison worth it? Or looking back and knowing you took a life? I mean, you may not care, but seriously. If you got anger problems, you got to work on that big time. Next time you may not be so lucky. About a week later, I got a call from Sharon. She wanted to sit both Karen and I down so we could at least have some closure, though I know she wanted me to forgive her daughter for cheating on me. I want nothing to do with Karen and said as much, but in the end I agreed because if nothing else, Sharon was an amazing cook. I will give Karen credit. She didn't make any excuses for her actions. She told me her desire to marry me and her guilt for betraying me, but she fully owned up to her actions. That's kind of shocking, actually. I told her that if I took her back, she would never have the same respect for me and love for me as she used to. She disagreed, but we both knew the truth. If you took her back after all that, of course she would not respect you because she'd be like, what a weak jackass. Of course she was saying at the time, but there's no way she would respect you. And these stories I do prove that every single time. I was still living with her, and that sit down just pissed me off further. I wanted to hurt her just like I did. The thing I did next is something I regret to this day. I ended up sleeping with Sharon. It happened about a month later after I dumped Karen. It was never my plan, like it ever is. But I jumped at the chance when Sharon invited me over for dinner to formally apologize for her daughter's actions. I vented my anger to Sharon, and after a few hours, we both got a little loaded. You know how it is with tipsy women in their mid-40s. It didn't take a whole lot to seduce Sharon, and before I knew it, I was having my fun. Evidently, Sharon at least enjoyed it, because we met up several times after that to hook up. Although I did it purely out of spite, she was the best in bed I've ever had. Good Lord, dude, this sounds like a freaking adult film. But again, truth is stranger than fiction. You can't make this shit up. You never know, guys. I know a lot of guys are going to say, oh, this is bullshit, but I've done crazier stories. After a while of me regularly hooking up with Sharon, Karen eventually found out. Needless to say, she was shocked and furious. Yeah, I would expect that. But what was she doing with her ex? And you guys were engaged. I expected the revenge would have been more fulfilling, but it wasn't. I felt horrible because I stooped down to Karen's level, and I not only ruined my friendship with Sharon, but I also permanently damaged a parent and child's relationship. Dude, you're half at fault. You know who else is at fault? Her mother. Who is worse, you for doing her mom, or her mom doing you? The mother. Okay, so it's not all on you. Her mother's a part of it as well. What does this say about her family? Does this sound like something you want to be involved in? I mean, come on. Yeah, she's cool and obviously good looking and good in bed and a good cook, but this is not a family you want to be a part of. After that, I cut ties with both of them completely, and went on a bit of a rebound phase where I slept with several women, to which my brother didn't approve of due to his religious beliefs, but whatever. Fast forward to December of 2021, I had to move in with my grandparents to help take care of my grandmother, who looks to me as my mother, because of her cancer. She is now cancer-free and on the road to recovery, thank God. Hey, that's great, man. But even after a couple years, Karen was still calling and texting me on occasion to attempt to rekindle what had long been since gone. After all that, she's still chasing after you. You see what these types... She's obviously a lowlife, we all know that. You see what happens to these lowlives when they're treated like crap? They chase after those guys. Isn't that interesting? You get pressured into proposing to her like a nice guy would, and she starts treating you like crap. You nail her mom lots of times, and she's chasing after you. Amazing. I ignore those calls because I have no intention of ever interacting with her ever again. But even today, as I sit here typing this ridiculous story out, I still get the occasional message from her pleading for me to contact her. So what do you think? Was I an irredeemable moron? Was my actions during the relationship too cold? I'd love to hear you and your subscribers' thoughts on the matter. Well, what do I think? Well, number one, I think that I'm glad she's out of your life and don't ever have anything to do with her again. I think that you got luckier in hell that you didn't end up offing that dude when you walked in and caught him nailing your fiancée. Otherwise, you'd be in prison the rest of your life. I think if you got anger issues, you got to definitely work on that, bro. And I think you need to focus on yourself and get your life together and don't end up with low lives like her. As for the relationship with her, it sounds like you were a good guy to her, and then when your dog got sick, you focused completely on your dog, which anybody would understand. Now, I did say, and I will say again, if you're in a relationship, women don't like being ignored. And when I say ignored, I mean, it sounded like you didn't see her for months. That's what it kind of sounded like. So obviously she wanted to see you and was pissed about that. But instead of being loving about it and trying to help you and console you with your dog who you love so much, she just got bitchy at you and said, that dog, or whatever the hell she said, not cool. She could have come to your place with takeout and you could have watched Netflix or whatever the hell it is. And been there with the dog, but she didn't care. And to punish you, she had to start hooking up with her ex, as if she wasn't maybe hooking up with him before that. But, so no. I mean, yeah, you could have made time for her, but at the end of the day, her actions was inexcusable, unforgivable. She's hooking up with, her ex. On the other hand, as entertaining and amusing as it is that you were nailing her mom, not just once but multiple times, that still ain't cool. I mean, it's funny. We can all laugh about that, and it's obviously a lot of dudes' fantasies, but obviously not cool either. And so, but what's done is done. You can't change that. You gave us all an entertaining story. But I'd have nothing to do with her or her mom again. And again, I want to point out her mom is equally, if not worse, in the situation because it is her daughter, right? I mean, seriously. But I would recommend focusing on yourself, doing the best you can. You're an electrician, becoming great at your job, maybe starting your own business one day. Who the hell knows? Get some business experience. And going from there, be the best you can be, and start being really serious about who you let into your life, and et cetera, et cetera. And it sounds like there's issues with your father and everything like that. And again, if there's any issues there, you got to look at the big picture and don't want that turmoil to come into your life as well. So, but definitely an entertaining story, bro. I will say that. And a lot of people are going to say it's bullshit, but that's how it works. So, but I've done crazier stories, let me tell you. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me just think about this. Let this guy know what you think. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.